Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our FME 2024 Unleashed, Your Data, Your World. So I'm Kieran Kirk, I'm the Operations Director with IMGS and Data Builders. And Gavin, our CTO, was meant to be here this morning. He's got caught up on another project, but he has given me all the content, so I'm just going to present all the good work he's done already and show you guys what some really cool features in 2024 with a little bit of features from 23.1 as well that we actually think are very interesting. So hopefully you'll enjoy the next 50 minutes or so as we go through FME. So Data Builders, who are we? Data Builders and IMGS, we have the expertise and solutions to align with your business goals and create a single source of truth, granting you access to the full power of your data. We've created a complete 360-degree solution. So FME provides our data integration, Data Galaxy provides our data governance, and SciSense our embedded analytics. With FME, you can connect to your data sources, transform your data, and then automate your workflows. And a big thing that's happened in the last year with FME, which you'll see now with the 2024 release, is the rebranding of the names. So I think we're just about getting used to it now. FME Form is for forming your workflows. That's how you build your workflows. It's old school FME desktop. FME Flow is where you build and automate your workflows. So as you create your flows, and that is your old school FME server. FME Flow hosted is FME Flow in the cloud as before, and then FME Mobile allows you to run the FME in the field. So, going to bring out some of the highlights of what's new in 2024. As I've said, have thrown in a couple of things that did come out in 23.1. So you will see a few features there that came out late last year. So we thought we'd include them as well because they're really interesting of what is happening with the product. Big change, biggest change you're going to see is we've got a new FME 2024 user interface. So the idea being here on the Lizard's back, for any of those people on the call who are old school FME, the Lizard always comes out to World Tours. So it allows you to create workspaces that not only look more appealing, but also present a sense of calm and focus. Okay, so the idea is that the workspaces are a lot easier to use, a lot easier to manipulate. So the FME Flow interface has been tidied up a little bit, not as revolutionary really as the changes you will see in the FME desktop and in the canvas. So what you're seeing is this more move to black and white. And actually, let me just jump out for a second and show it to you very quickly. So you can see here, it's now nice color, black and white. The buttons have changed. If I open a little sample workspace here, you can see the paneling on the left. Some things here we'll talk about in a second. And then you've got the schema preview and parameter on the right. And if we run a workspace, you know, we're going to get our usual warnings and things down the bottom here. We can see our data running through. We can see our warnings and information. Again, very, very similar. But then we've got our new schema preview. And if we look at our data, we'll also see that there is default maps are going to come up. So we can see our visual preview, we can see different maps, and we've now got a default map, which you will see in a few seconds as another feature. But the big thing is the canvas. The canvas has changed. I think it looks very clear, looks very nice. The black and white, you can see the connections to our FME Flow here are here. So we can connect to our instances, connect to the databases, and we can actually see everything is running nicely. Okay, so again, the canvas has changed. I think it's very, very clear, very more and very more user friendly, and a big change for us who've been using FME for so long to see how that has moved on. So some of the things we'll see in them changes, yes, the GUI, the coloring itself, the black and white, the transformers, the canvas has really just been tidied up and made an awful lot clearer, which should make your workspace development a whole lot nicer. One really useful thing is that the navigator, so you can see you have the panels here, you can see your transformer on the left, you can see the different objects. which I like about the FME as well. You can click on a transformer and it'll jump to that transformer, or click on a reader or writer and it will jump into those objects. You can see the visual preview, so you can see the data, and we can also see the information in the schema, you know, what attributes are being exposed, what aren't exposed. All that information is now there. So again, for those who are working with data, it just speeds up your DevOps, makes it, it means you're working faster because you've got a cleaner interface. And similarly, we have the schema preview, which if we look at any data here, we can actually see that data in the visual preview, but we can also see it in the schema preview. So we can see the structure of at that point in the translation. So you can then see how your data is being manipulated, see the fields, see the data types for any transform or object during the process. You're actually able to see that schema. So that definitely helps with your data integration flow lines, that you're able to pick up that information, be able to see the outputs, not only the data itself, but the structure of the data in a nice way. Because the data, the visual preview is grand, but there's a lot of columns. You know, how do you see each one? With the schema preview, you can see all the data types, you can see all the columns in a nice to use interface. Just showed you a second ago, background maps now have built in. So you now have, there was always an option of having an Esri map or a statement map or whatever it is. There was the Bing one, but you also had keys and you had to set the key and bring it in. Oh, it's a bit of a nuisance. Now they're there. So they're built into the system. They're there for you to actually use. Little helper now, if you get a new mismatch for coordinates. So if there's a warning, if your data is mismatched on the coordinate systems, you get this nice new warning. The date stamper has changed. It's more of a 23.1 change. So again, some changes here on how the date stamper works. So you can actually set up your date stamp coming through. And also another thing that came out with the 23.1 and I think it's 24 as well is the attribute manager, which allows you now to set the data types. So as well as being able to, attribute manager is great in renaming attributes, hiding columns that you don't want to use, removing columns or adding default values, but now also you'll be able to see the data type of that attribute, which is really important when you're writing that to your database. So again, an important change, and you can see it here. So in here, we've got our data coming out of our database here. We can see this, see the information on the side, and then in the attribute manager, we can come in here, see the data we're bringing in, but also see the data types for those fields. So being able to pick them up and then deciding how we're going to do them, and you know, do we want to bring in the, where do we want to get the feature types from? Do we want to bring them from the destination or the source? You can bring that out. And then when you're writing the database, the data to your database using the feature writer, it's inheriting those feature types from the attribute manager. So you're enforcing that to be correct and that your data has been rolled out in the correct structure. So again, nice. It's just these little steps to help your improve your process, to make things run a little bit simpler when you're doing your development, when you're building your flows and you're forming your flows using FME form, that you're able to bring them out. Really useful change is this. Now we can upgrade all transformers that are in a workspace that have been changed. As you've done your upgrade to 2024, your workspace will identify that there are transformers that need to be upgraded. You can then run them as a batch. And again, if I jump out to my little workspace here, this is the one I use when I do the accelerators. You can see on the right hand side here, we have there's 4 upgrades here that I need. So I got attribute manager. It's on version 3, latest version is version 5. If I click on it, it will bring me to it, and I can see them on the screen. So I can actually jump to them and actually see which ones are affected. And I can right click and I can go upgrade all transformers, and it's going to go upgrade, and away we go. And it tells you what they're going for, and it's going to create you a report. And then I don't have my little, on the left now, I have no parameters or transformers set as requiring an upgrade. As simple as that. So when you're bringing your workspaces through now, you know which ones are affected. They're identified in that nice little list, and it's easy to update and easy to upgrade. Okay. A lot to cover too, so I'll keep moving. So now enhanced encryption, really important. It's getting, the world is getting very dangerous when it comes to data security. Everybody, it's like it's now a weekly occurrence when you're hearing about data breaches. So, you know, we need to make sure we don't have any bad actors. We need to ensure that we're encrypting everything we can and being able to make it as hard for data breaches or data for anyone to attack our systems as possible. So again, safe are very much along those lines, and again are enhancing encryption into the system as well. And again, in that line, we have improved connection management, so you can share connections, so you're not actually passing passwords and things in raw files back and forth, that you can share a connection with users through the system. Again, this was lit towards the end of the 23.1 release, conditional parameters. If anybody in FME Flow, if anybody uses FME Flow for doing data entry forms, which again, we've done a number of projects where customers will use FME Flow to create apps where people can enter in data and do that zero ETL approach of pushing data back in to the database. With that, you can actually, one of the big things when you've developed those forms is you want to be able to go, okay, field one, pick type A, pick the, say it's a road inspection form. Field one could be surface type, so it could be concrete, tar macadam, or cobblestone. Well, if you pick concrete, then the subtype should either be concrete paving or mass concrete or something, or if it's tarmac, the subtype should be, you know, bitumen or whatever. So they should, the next filter should filter based on the previous. That wasn't available previously in FME, so that made it a little bit harder to build more complex forms. But actually, with the new newer versions of FME, yes, we can actually bring in conditional parameters into the system and be able to see those. So so that way, when we're bringing data in, that we can then have these parameters that are conditional. So inside our user parameters here, if we're picking, you know, one thing is picked, we can then go, okay, they've actually given a value, so now do the next option in the drop-down list. So based on the previous, change the next inputs. If one is true, then do the following. If it's not, then do the other. That means you can build some very clever either forms or in Flow in your parameters that you're asking users for specific values for your apps. So again, really, really useful, nice feature now in the system, which we've been asking for. You'll see now in the automations in FME Flow that you've now got link counts to tell you how much data is being passed back, or many flows are going through the process. Another big thing that we're seeing with the FME is the ability to apply anywhere. So the data, and this again is the 23.1 release, it's still going into 2024. So the data today is larger, faster, more varied, and more distributed than ever before. So what you want now is different in distributed versus remote engines. So what you want is the engine to be near the data, so that you're increasing that data velocity. So when you're doing the processing, that is then speeded up, that you're not moving the data around to go to your processing, you're doing the processing where the data resides. That speeds things up, means greater time to insights, and cuts down on your overheads. So a really important piece. So with that, with remote engines, there's increased efficiency, so we can process the data wherever it resides. You can eliminate that network latency and data transfer. You can deploy it anywhere, so you can deploy processing anywhere as part of one deployment, so it's all controlled. And the security means you can support data compliancy and security by keeping the data in a secure location. So again, if you're need the data to stay in Ireland, but you've got some cloud processes that are outside the country, you can put the remote engine in the Irish data center. Or if the data center is behind a firewall in a secure area, you can put the remote engine in there. Data never leaves that instance and can be processed where it is. So that's really, again, going back to one of the themes of the conversation, you know, security, making sure our data is secure, safe, it's in the right locations, that's not being moved around. Because even one of the big risks in data breaches is data transfer, data movement. So if we can leave the data in the one location, then again, we're driving that extra level of security. So with that, we can do, you know, an on-premise system with FME flow and local engines, and then we can have, you know, another architecture where you've got your cloud instance and you can have a remote engine service in the cloud. So that way you're getting the best of both worlds. In your large data sets in the cloud, you can run your FME in those instances beside them and speed up the data and still have your local data either pushing or pulling and the data in and out. So that all now can be configured inside FME flow. So you can create a remote engine, you can assign some engines to it, and then you can put it on a different server. Also now the licensing is now controlled from the main FME flow. So again, you can control the licensing across this distributed architecture, and it makes it easier then to see where you need it and how you're going to actually use it. Again, one of the things we talk about is trying to make the system easier to use from a developer point of view. So as you're building workflows with your FME form, you might be creating versions. We have Git integration, so you can have version control. But version control is great, but a developer needs to be able to go, I created version 1, I created version 2, what's the differences? Now, yeah, by rights, you should have nice notes and annotations in the workspace so that you can actually see the changes, but that doesn't always work. So what you actually want to have is the ability to do a diff comparison, which is standard enough in the source code to be able to view the difference between two different workspaces. So by being able to bring in, you know, a workspace and be able to see the differences between the old version and the new version. So you can see here, you know, Gavin has brought in two different workspaces, version 2 and version 1, is opening them up, hits the OK button, and now on screen, we're going to see the two versions and the comparison of them too. And you can see, like you would see with standard code, the highlighted areas are where transformers or objects have been changed in the FME workbench, and that you can step through and see those changes. And then you can understand what happened between the two versions, what was the issue, and if one has broken a flow or a workflow or a line, you'll be able to see that very, very quickly in the system. Okay, so yeah, and even there you can see inside the settings of the transformer. So being able to even just look at the two transformers and go, right, on the spatial filter, he had in version 1, he had it doing an intersect. In version 2, it's a buffer, whatever it was, you're able to then see all those changes really, really quickly. So this is again helping the developer who is building the flow lines to work, to be able to work smarter, and in this case, you know, bring back some of the changes, do replace. This is the kind of stuff you would normally just see on code, but you're now seeing it visually inside FME. So really, really excellent and great changes. And then now you can see the different differences that you're bringing into the workspace, being able to apply some of them across and still do that compare and version, which is excellent. Similarly then, we have the CLI, so we're now able from command line, again, if you're building workflows or integrating with your Git, you can open up the workspaces, see these versions, see the changes, and open them out inside your desktop. So again, this is a lot of DevOps is built by building processes, inside Git that are run by commands. So we can actually now do all this via the command line and branch your code in GitHub, do everything you would expect to do, which is, I know, for a lot of people wouldn't be going down this road yet, but this is really important if you're starting to build out industry flow lines and have multiple versions in dev, in production, having all this in the application, in these workflows now that you can industrialize and build these developer operations properly with your FME is really, really important. So it's just adding functionality again so that we can do everything from the command line, which a lot of people will want because they just want to be able to script this kind of stuff, script changes, opening workspaces, all this can be done. And again, you can see coming from Git, the version, to see the change, see what's different in the workspace, and being able to check them in and check them out and do all that through the FME interface. So again, to help with that, we're now also adding to FME server, FME flow standardization, so you can have same configuration across FME deployments. So again, if you want to be able to script these changes, you need to be able to do this. So it's easy now to move solutions from one, dev to prod, pre-prod to production through the FME interface, and this will make DevOps easier. So simplify and make production pipelines simpler and more reliable. And again, deployment parameters are now a new feature there. So you can maintain and standardize the FME platform in one place and then apply to different environments. So create local overrides to parameters for easier testing and flexibility. So little things like being able to go in and very quickly change the email settings as you move from server to server. Again, these are small things. They're not huge changes, but what they do is they're improving performance, and as FME can be used to scale up and to do not just spatial, but all sorts of data flows, the same as you might see with other data integration platforms. You can see it is now as all the functionality to support that across your enterprise. Yeah, the FME flow connection now has been revamped as well, so that you can join to it easier, pick it up and take it from the system. And as I talked about already, you can have the command line to import and export projects from your FME flow and bring them down again, which again just means if you're moving your infrastructure from your production flow from different servers, you can now automate all this with a proper CI/CD Git pipeline. Last year, the AI assistant came out, and I think everybody has some kind of flavor of ChatGPT in their systems now. So we're no different here with FME. It's really useful for people who aren't programmers but need to put Python or SQL into their object, or even regex expressions, which I cannot do. And here's an example here. So we're doing a regex editor to do an error code, which is an iris postcode expression to check is the data valid. So again, error codes have letter, two numbers, A9136, letter, number, two letters, and a space between them. So there's a little bit, so if I put in 3 first letters, it's not an error code. Okay, so how do you make sure that you're generating the correct postcode? So the data here will be sent to ChatGPT, you get a reminder that you're doing it, and it'll come back and say, okay, this is the regex expression, and as you can see, it's letter, two numbers, letters, two numbers, and space. So that's what they've put in to the regex. So you can go, yeah, happy with that, put that into my code, and away we go. So having to write that regex out would have been really, a bit of a pain. But now you can actually just use the AI assist to generate that regex, or to generate your Python if you're doing Python calls, which, you know, you can do some really powerful things with Python. One of the things we've been looking at recently is just using Python in the FME desktop to talk to email systems, which can be done on an FME form, but yeah, if you want to do it there. So you can then see it's validating all our data and bringing it through. So that AI assist capability came out in 23.1, has been tuned in 24, so it's getting a little bit better, and yeah, something that's really easy. And there's the SQL assist, same idea. So you can send a query to join three tables together. It comes back if you give it the schema. So you see that option there, send data-based schema to AI. It will actually then come back with the exact table names that you need to put in. If you're scared of sharing your information, then you send a more generic and request, and you get a more generic answer. So depending on your data. So the SQL assist is really good, and the same for Python. So again, you know, refine code, explain code, add in comments. So, you know, programmers are going to, with these things, like with these code languages, you know, you've got Amazon and these guys all bringing out tools using AI to generate code. It is going to get simpler and simpler because the tools can do it for you. I'm not sure where the innovation will come, but you will have to just walk through that. But again, for anybody who's using FME, might not be a big programmer, but needs to write some simple commands, the AI assist is great. Comes with a caveat: you are using publicly available information, so you're assuming that information is correct. So it definitely needs to be tested, definitely needs to be checked, you know, so don't just take it as gospel. I see these AI tools like Wikipedia. You know, Wikipedia is sourced, is open, you know, source data. There's no guarantee it's right. It's not authoritative. Some of the AI stuff you can call, you know, who is standing over. So you do need to test it, and don't just assume 100% that it's going to be perfect. You know, you might have to refine it. You might have to check it. Big thing again, because organizations are looking at using these large language models that are behind ChatGPT and things like that, but companies do not want to push their data out of the organization. So what do? Well, you have the options to use your own private large language models, whether that's in your own on-premise and you've installed locally, you know, there's a number of Linux versions out there you can install, or whether you're using options like the Amazon or Microsoft versions where you can have the data in your own private data center. So Bedrock and these kind of guys that you can use through Amazon, where you push your data to LLM, but it's not a public model. It's a private model. Your data is not shared out to anybody else, and the results are not shared out to anybody else. So that's really powerful, because then you're able to use the LLM, tune it to your own requirements, and get the kind of AI analysis you're looking for. But how do you get the data to these LLM models? That is the big challenge. So with FME, we have this open AI support so that we can then push the data and get it over to these LLM models and run it through them to get the results. So FME is powering that workflow and integrating everything up, getting the data from the source to the AI model so that then it can be run. Okay, well, I actually flew through that a bit faster than I thought. So that's a half an hour, but I think it's only me talking, so it's probably enough for people hearing my voice. So they are the features that we've seen in FME 2024. I'm not sure if there's any questions at this stage. If there are, we'll give us a minute just to let anybody ask. See somebody writing, yeah. Yeah, fire ahead, Kira. Yeah, if you want to. I'm not sure if we can unmute. Yeah, I can put you on mic as well if you want. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Hi, Kieran. Thank you for that. That was really useful. I just wanted to ask: have you deployed a remote engine on an Azure cloud for anyone at the moment, and how are they finding that? Again, it'd be something we'd be interested in.
We haven't. I don't think we've done it into Azure. We've done remote engines behind with other customers behind firewalls. So where we needed to put the data, the engine beside the data. And in that case, it's fine. It's just an FME server pretty much install. You just then turn off certain features, and then as long as the license can be configured, it should work. Now, if it's like there are plans, I believe, from FME to add that you will have like objects that will run inside Azure. So I know with things like Snowflake and that, they're looking at having that the engine is part of the instance. But the minute if it was running in Azure, it would just be either a Windows server or an Linux instance that would run in your Azure residence, and then you would fire the other. So we haven't done it yet, but I can definitely come back to it. Gavin would probably have a bit more information on what's required in putting it into the Azure instance. But I don't know if we have any customers doing it that way yet. Most who are using the remote engine are using it behind firewalls or where data is getting data out, as opposed to the cloud, because a lot of our customers, if they're looking at the cloud, are just using the FME cloud hosted, and with it you're able to pick your data residency anyway, so but I will check about that and come back to you.
Perfect, thank you.
I think there's one other question in the chat. Yeah, so that's a good question. So on the Gen AI, what's the T's and C's of using AI assistants? Do you need to use third-party AI service? Or no, I think it's using you need a key. I think it's using actually just see. I think it's set for you. So if I come in here and if I add a SQL. So SQL executor, just for the crack, put it in there. Where'd it go? There it is. And maybe it's not on that one. It's not showing there. Maybe it's on the Python call, or maybe. Yeah, AI assist. So I click on it. So yeah, it's oh yeah. So there is a key, but it's you can use you can select your own API key. So if you want to pick your option, so you have OpenAI or Azure AI there, and then you can select your own keys if you want to choose. So yeah, that's your option there for your web connection on which one you want to do. So if it's OpenAI or if it's them, you can actually pick it in and make that change. Otherwise, I think if I don't use that, it's just going to use the default, and it'll just go to probably ChatGPT or whatever service that's safe to set up. Okay, no problem. Yeah, it is really clever, so so if I just go here, generate email, and hit that, yeah, I'll send it, and then there's terms of use there. Skip the question in the future, so yeah, and it's going on that request. Oh yeah, I need to put more Python. I'm not great at Python. But yes, then you just send it in. Otherwise, you can come down here and give it and hit it your own key as well. I haven't used it too much now yet at the minute, but yeah, that's how it works. All right, is there any other questions?
No more questions. I think that's it.
All right. Well, listen, thanks everybody for joining this morning. Hope you enjoyed the webinar. We've been doing a series of webinars. That's us off now for the summer, but we'll be coming back in the autumn and with a few more data webinars. So hopefully we'll see you then. Thanks, Tanya, for arranging. The video of this session will be shared out, so you'll be able to see it. And if you need any other questions or any other content, please let us know. All right. Listen, have a good day, guys, and thanks for coming. Thanks, Anya.
Thanks, everyone.